Good evening and welcome to my channel, or welcome back to Empath's Wish 444, where I've got another letter for you. Let's get started. Dear subscriber, it seems as though every empath has endured some form of abuse from one or more narcissistic partners or situations. From my own relationships to the observations of many others, whether heterosexual or those within the LGBTQIA community, the results were the same. The empath within that dynamic spent a lot of time explaining themselves. Even more time was spent trying to convince the narcissistic type person about the error of their ways. I did that for 30 plus years during my marriage and the result was constant argument, lack of sleep, not eating, pills, therapy, suicidal thoughts, and attempts. If I had been a healed person at age 19 when I met my late husband, I would not have entertained so much as a conversation. You see, my first red flag was that I disliked him immediately on first sight. Red flag number 2, he got my attention by quietly and suddenly appearing out of nowhere. When I realized he was standing to the right of my desk, I jumped because he startled me. He laughed and said, "You're too easy," and walked away. Every empath can find the first red flag very early on in the relationship, but they either seem to second guess it or ignore it. I was a young receptionist at the Library of Congress, no kids, own apartment, working and attending the University of District of Columbia. And my late husband, who was 26, was a police officer who was stationed across from my desk. I prided myself on turning down many officers' advances, as all of them on the third watch or the 3 to 11 p.m. shift were kind of a clique. So I was not about to be looked at in any sort of negative light. Additionally, most of them were married, but he was too, but he forgot to mention that. So this guy began small talk, but there's something about him that I can't put my finger on. Now, I had tripped on the carpet a day before he came to work at the station across from me where I sat. So he knew everything about me on the accident report that was sitting on his desk when he arrived. He had everything about me, address, social, everything. Okay, so I began to relax a few weeks after meeting him, but that was my second mistake. Excuse me 1 second. He was actually quite charming and funny. He took me to lunch, let me drive his car, and a relationship began. I was 19, what did I know? I was also wounded from my toxic childhood, so perfect recipe for more narcissistic abuse, but now disguised as a partner instead of a parent. Sometimes when an empath can't quite identify why they feel strange about something or someone, that in and of itself should be seen as a red flag. The time came that his car needed a transmission. Oh, excuse me. He must be trying to stop me from talking. He on the other side, he can't do that. Okay, excuse me, goodness. His car needed a transmission. Of course, the empath in me jumped right in. "You need $1,500? Okay, let's go to the bank," I said. And this happened for the catalytic converter and the engine and the down payment on a new vehicle, and thousands of dollars more, some of which was supposed to go towards my goal of owning land. When I asked about where his money was going, I was called the B word for the first time in my life, and I was shocked. Since life was extremely difficult under Mother, my gauge meter for accepting abuse was way off. You see, I thought that anything less then the tortures I endured under her was perhaps more normal or more tolerable. As you can imagine, my acceptance of him calling me out of my name was the beginning of 30 plus years of narcissistic type abuse, rage, etc. It was also 30 plus years of me trying to fast, pray, read, learn, sympathize, encourage, explain, turn the other cheek, seek counseling, change my attitude, clothes, hair, locations, go to church, leave church, you name it, I tried it. I knew for sure that nothing would make our marriage peaceful or loving. Especially since he had other personality disorders that I found out about only 2 years ago. I've been widowed 13 years. His verbal abuse was never provoked. This guy will wake up and the first words out of his mouth will be to call me a name. But like the typical narcissistic logic goes, it's always somebody else's fault. So what I began doing, since in my mind and upbringing, divorce was not an option, I began divorcing him in my mind and in my spirit. It is actually called detachment. The empath begins to realize that they don't deserve this treatment, and they start to remove the importance of the narcissistic words or treatment. When you remove the importance of what they say to you, or remove the importance of that person in your life, and you start to see them as just another person, another face, and you don't make them important at all. It's just like, walking past a stranger on the street. You then get yourself back to a place of peace. That's a way that you can first begin to bring peace into the situation that you might not be able to get away from right away. Start detaching in your mind first. And that way, after they start talking to you and looking at you kind of crazy, side eyes and yelling at you and all that dumb stuff, you can kind of look at them with a blank stare like they're not even standing there. And it's like almost like an out-of-body experience, removing yourself, but you're still there. They think you're still there, but you're not responding. Upsets them terribly. Now, where am I? I don't want to talk about that one. All right, I'll tell you about it. For example, a guy I turned down once told me that nobody will want me. Typical narcissistic statement, spoken through a hurt ego. I told him that I was on 5 dating sites, that within 1 day I had over 1,500 hits per site, and that's the truth. The math takes me to 1 date every day for the rest of my life. He had nothing more to say. Silence was definitely golden right there. So in other words, if there's a way that you can ignore what they said and realize that what they said isn't true, it'll help you keep your sanity while they sit here tripping out trying to figure out what can I do to irritate them next. But you're already ahead of the game. But what if you aren't on dating sites and the language is hurting you? Well, here is where introspection again comes into play. Let's take a look at it and not them. Let's take a look at it and not them. The empath must ask, number 1, where or when did I first hear this word, statement, or thing that hurt? Think back. Wait for your spirit guides to show you. It may hurt to recall it, but just know that when you do, you will now release and remove it from your system. After a while, whenever the empath hears it again and again, it will have no effect. And that's what scares the narcissist. Their energy comes from your fear. They feel important. My late husband used to lunge at me as though he would hit me. I was grabbed and pushed but never hit. But I was afraid of him, especially since he had me believing that his police status on Capitol Hill gave him immunity to any prosecution. One day I was cooking and he came in from work and threw the plate of dinner that I had made him in the trash and went on his tirade of name calling. I came out of the kitchen to get something out of the dining room, and he lunged at me. After years of this, I was beyond fed up. You see, what I'm saying is, this had been happening for many, many years. This particular day was the day. I was beyond fed up, no longer scared. I told him if he came at me one more time, his mother will be wearing a black dress the next day. He looked at me in shock. He stopped in his tracks. He also never did that again. Did I mention I was chopping veggies and I was holding a very large, very sharp kitchen utensil in my hand at the time? I forgot to mention that, sorry. And about the name calling, I yelled at him this time and said if I really wanted to be the B word, I could call my uncles who had dark connections, they're no longer alive, thank goodness. No telling where they'd be right now, probably. Anyway, and have him, let's just say his family would be wondering where he was. You see, I was in my mid-30s by the time this happened, and I remember I was only 19 when we met. So I had been pushed past any tolerance level for so many years. I was fed up, beyond fed up. But this time, he was older and beginning to have health issues, which didn't stop the behavior, and that's another chapter. But here's the thing. It's the duty of the empath to see their worth, to allow their spirits to shine, and to realize that the narcissist is here to make sure that empaths are pushed to their brink. That's their job. They're supposed to push us, because without them, the empath is not challenged to speak up for themselves other than to explain themselves. When the empath reaches their limit, they may fold, or as I did, step into my life's mission. Period. That's it. Ultimately what I ended up doing as a result of all of the abuse, all of the narcissists, all of the narcissistic situations and businesses and things I had been through and worked at, and the list is so long, it's ridiculous. Like my whole life was just an entire big narcissist, the whole big cloud over my head. But that cloud's gone now, thank goodness. But that's why I'm talking to you guys, because it's nonsensical, but I can help you make sense of it. It'll start to make a lot more sense when you realize it's not a fault of yours. It's a thing about strengthening you, ultimately. So if you know about what it says in the Bible about God making those things that are bad work or turn around for your good, that's kind of the same thing. So even though it looks bad, ultimately by the time you get yourself sharp and up on your feet and you say, wait a minute, I'm not dealing with this nonsense. Who are you anyway? And matter of fact, why am I even talking to you? You're beneath where I would even, when you realize that this is what you've been dealing with, then you say, look, bye boy, bye girl, bye, get by. And you go on with your life's mission and you move into where you really, or where your heart's desire is. You start making those real decisions. Now, you see, before the empath is fully awakened, they often find themselves trying to have meaningful conversations that go left, and the empath is in tears or upset and explaining themselves. Wait a minute. Narcs will say things like, oh, so you want to be a B word about me not buying stuff when nobody said anything to you about what you didn't do, or nobody said anything to you about that time you bought. Always trying to flip the script and switch it back on you. These type of statements, or, here's a good one. They might say something like, oh, my bad, I was just trying to be your friend. let's go on and get that guilt trip in there. It's anything, any statement that will jar at the empath's heart. Because, we're not trying to upset anybody. So the minute somebody says, oh, you just doing that, oh, my bad, I was just trying to be your friend. Oh, well, that's not what I was trying to say. That would be us backing up, backpedaling, not standing our ground, not standing in our truth. So ultimately, who doing the lying? We are, to ourselves. Can't do that. Messes everything up. So after years of this, the empath is so frustrated, and we often mistakenly believe that this life is not getting any better. What's the use? Why am I here? And other thoughts. Words that bring the vibration way down and takes you away from your peaceful, happy place, and ultimately distracting you from your dreams, which was in the 3D physical reality exactly what the narc was trying to do. So what should the empath do? One we already discussed. Go back to the first incident where you heard, saw, experienced what hurt you. Who was it? Most likely a parent or someone responsible for your upbringing. Cry it out, write it out, exercise, salt bath, scream, but release it. Why is the empath's question, why me? Why did this happen? Well, a couple of reasons, for sure. Number one, the empath has a divine mission. That is the main reason why you've been attacked all your life, because everybody in the unseen realm knows why you're here. You're going to mess around and make a change somewhere. You're going to touch some people. You're going to affect people's lives. They're going to get better. The other side can't have you doing that. They're trying to stop you. Let's just put that. They don't want you to fulfill the mission because, number one, if you don't fulfill the mission, you're going to have to repeat the life cycle all over again, over and over and over and over and over till you get it. So learn what it is and get it taken care of so you don't have to repeat this mess. Number two, the empath must clear past karma, hurts, unresolved issues that are clogging up their hearts, minds, and spirits, blocking chakras. And it also blocks the flow of divine guidance. The fears must be identified and faced. Unforgiveness must be forgiven, especially toward yourself. It's the same concept as decluttering your home or doing a detox diet. Once the inner work has begun, a certain strength or energy flow increases. It begins to build within. You start to feel like you do like yourself, and the better version of your soul begins to lead you in many ways you're unaware of. And a bonus is that the transformation will present itself in a more vibrant and healthy lifestyle and a better physical appearance. You'll begin to look younger and possess a glow. The empath starts to see the behavior of the narcissist as a small child having a tantrum rather than a bully they once were. Think of it like this. The language, the toxic behaviors, the empath suffers. It's like falling down and hurting your knee. But until it heals, nothing can touch it. Because why? It'll hurt. Once the knee is fully healed and the new skin is intact, anything can touch the spot without pain. So if there's a bully somewhere in your life, the first step is to stop looking at their behavior, because that will not change. However, they can appear to change. Number two, find out the origin of your sore spot. Once you know where it is or where it came from, remember that you suffered at that time because, number one reason is that there's an agreement to stop your divine mission. You suffered at that time because of the agreement to stop your divine mission. That was the first hurt. Even if you were just a baby, even if you was a child, even if you were abandoned, left in an orphanage, whatever happened in the earliest part of your life, those are the people that were assigned initially to go ahead and try to stop you. This is some crazy nonsense, isn't it? Okay, so my mother was commissioned to stop mine. You see, it didn't work. Number three, Ask God, your higher power, etc., to remove the pain of the incident and send it back into source where it can be changed into whatever is for the greater good of all. It can go to source, universe, to angels, whoever it is you use as your, or that you pray to, or whoever is your guide. They can assist with that, even if it's just your higher self. That's perfect. You can simply say, as I do, Holy Spirit, higher self, Spirit guides, Ascended Master Yeshua, and Archangel Michael, please remove and transmute this energy and do as you see fit. Amen and Ashe. All I want him to do is get it out of me so I don't feel it anymore. Cleanse your energy after that. That's number 4, during the prayer. Sage, Palo Santos, do it while you're bathing, showering. Matter of fact, water will also wash away energies. If you don't have any of this stuff, you don't have to go buy anything. Go take a shower and it'll get it off of you. And pray while you wash it off. Say, let the water release and cleanse me of all the negativity, the hurt, the sorrow, the fear, all that resentment, all that. Just get it washed down. You may have to do it more than once, but you don't have to do it all the same day. Now, as you do this continually with every negative interaction, you will become more and more non-reactive. It baffles the narc's mind for you to show strength and peace when they're used to you crying or arguing with them. Did you ever notice the sparkle in their eye, or a slight smile or smirk as soon as you start to get upset? They love getting you upset. I used to act like I didn't hear or wasn't paying attention. After a while, I was no longer acting. So I tried a new tactic. He tried a new tactic. He used to call me by my mother's name, which I detested at first. Yeah, he had a nerve. I would be furious. My responses would be, how could you say that? That's not true. And I'm screaming at him, I'm yelling at him. But he knew that. And once I recognized that it was being done purposely, I changed my response to things like, you're right, I do have her good qualities. Another shocked expression on his part, and another victory for empaths. It's like the art of Kung Fu, where the villain rushes toward you to attack, but you move out of the way and they fall against their own force. This throws narcs completely off, and he stopped calling me by her name. See, it's the little things. Sometimes you can't get away from narcissists. Sometimes you have to live in a house with them, or you have to work with them. So you have to find the tactics that help to shut them out every single time they come at you sideways, which is like almost every time they open their mouth. And you got to do it nicely. And I'm just giving you a few tips on how to try to get around these people. Oh, I have a whole lot more, but we'll talk about them in different videos. It's psychological warfare, the art of maintaining peace and winning in toxic situations in the life of the empath is in knowing that it's all in the mind. It's all about detaching your eternal self from the situation and seeing that your Goliath or your giant can be taken down with one small pebble. The empath is that pebble, but they must find their true self, their true strength and power that has been lying dormant. Wow, chew on that for a second. We must live in our truth in order to begin the process of turning our life around. Goodness, now I can't read my writing. From putting out little fires like nasty remarks to slaying giants like long abusive relationships, the awakened, confident empath who is living in their higher purpose is the narcissist's worst nightmare. Now, let's recap. 1 through 4. Remember that you got to go back to the place that hurt, look at it, release it, transmute it, send it back out. And then change your tactics. Change how you say things. Don't jump into a conversation with them. Just look at them like they're crazy first. Remember the silence thing I was telling you about in the other video? Look at them like they're crazy. And don't respond the same way every single time. I wish I had a camera every time my husband's face would look like he was in shock. after he would like come in there and just get ready to start with this tirade of, you MFB, all this just, and I'm sitting there trying to study for an exam. Stuff like this. He did everything to say, oh no, I did not get my degree, but I'm like, not in that particular field, I have it in another one. But it's you understand. You understand the whole point. The thing is keeping your calm, going back to finding where your place of hurt is, and seeing them in a different way, backing up and seeing them as spoiled children, or people that just must have their way, or have no conscience or anything. You have to start treating them like the people that they are. But if you can't leave, you can do it, like I said, with little remarks that shut them down. If you start to agree with them when they say things about you or don't respond at all, it still throws them off. But again, if you're in a relationship where there's violence involved, you need some help on that one. You're going to need some backup, because the violent narcissist is not going to allow that silent treatment and all that stuff. They're not going to deal with that. If you're in any type of violence, definitely get some professional help, or call for the backup. Get help. In any case, I hope this helps you. This was a terrible video. I had a really rough day today because they tested me in physical therapy, and I was in a lot of pain today. I passed the test. They say I'm getting a little better. I personally don't see it. It's not fast enough for me, but in any case, they say I'm getting better, but I'm a little bit achy and really, really tired. So I'm a little bit off my game a bit. Anyway, I do have more to read. I will not be reading any more tonight. I will see you in maybe a few days. I hope this helped you. Give me a like, share, subscribe. If you would like any personal counseling, my email information is below, I believe. And eventually I'm going to do more readings on the Empath's Wish 444 Tarot. But there seems to have been some difficulty with getting things uploaded. It is canceling before it gets out to publication. So I got to find out what's going on there. Anyway, have a great evening, everyone. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry for rambling. I'm exhausted. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.